Last week's response, that response was incredible. I got a ton of love last week, and I would just like to say thank you for rocking with me. I'm Jabu, lifelong artist, lifelong gamer, and I love to talk about the visuals in games. In my last video, I was talking about how I spent 50 hours playing Tears of the Kingdom, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. My love for the game went from somewhere around here. Now it's like up here. So I am now nearly 90 hours into Tears of the Kingdom. And I love the game, right? But, and you knew that but was coming, I started to wonder. And a little conundrum kind of popped up in my head. I feel like something was lost when Zelda went to open world, right? And I can't for the life of me figure out if that's a good thing or a bad thing because of how much I appreciate both styles. So I pondered the question, what was left behind? And I came to the conclusion that it's two items, the map and the compass. For those of you who have been playing Zelda your entire life, you may have noticed that these two items have been indeed missing in these games. Okay, yes, there's a map, and it's very nice, it's very lovely, especially when you turn off the UI and immerse yourself in the game. Yes, that's in Tears of the Kingdom. However, the traditional map and compass has been lost. Along with it, dungeons have also been lost. And along with that, the items. So I have some reading material. This is the Zelda Encyclopedia. excuse me. The Legend of Zelda Encyclopedia. Put some respect on it. I began to shuffle through this book, and I realized that since Breath of the Wild, The Legend of Zelda has lost those items that felt distinct and unique. And I kind of felt it in Breath of the Wild, but now I really feel it in Tears of the Kingdom because Tears of the Kingdom has the same skeletal structure as Breath of the Wild. And I know I'm supposed to be talking about the visuals, but this really bugged me. I'm about to dive into this question. And while I'm diving into this question, please pause the video and write whatever comments you have to write below. As I stated last week, I'm trying to build a community of people that actually indeed appreciates video games. We are video game lovers over here. But that doesn't mean we give blind praise. What that means is we respect each other's opinions. My opinion, who is kind of like the host, or as the D&D guys would say, Dungeon Master. Nerding out. My opinion is no higher than yours. All opinions matter because we indeed all have different experiences. And that is literally the core of art, expressing your experiences in some kind of artistic media. So, about the missing map and compass in The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. I believe that the map and compass from back yonder was indeed a staple to the gameplay mechanics of Zelda. The very first Zelda that I played, the gold cartridge, I was really terrible at that game. I remember getting so frustrated as a young child that I decided to not even touch it anymore. I used to just look at the glistening cartridge and literally wonder if I would ever beat that game. And I still honestly have not beaten the original Legend of Zelda. And I know a lot of you guys have not beaten it either, so don't even lie. But I know you're gonna have a few of them in the comment section that say, bro, I have used my ROMs and I have indeed finished that game. So, The Legend of Zelda, the original, the gold cartridge, that felt like an open world to me back then. And back then, of course, it was 8-bit graphics, so it looks a lot different. I have several videos where I specifically mentioned The Legend of Zelda. One of them in particular is my tree video that you can find on my channel. And I believe, and I might be wrong, I believe the Unicorn Overlord world map video, which is right here. I don't know if I can do the YouTube link thing. If I can't figure it out, then I apologize. You have to look on the channel. They always change YouTube. I'm getting too old for this. So that game was open world. As a little kid, I felt like I was lost. Keep in mind that back then, you didn't have like a cell phone to like look up where to go. It kind of reminds me of the first Demon Souls, where phones, they weren't as advanced as they are now, where you can like literally pull up anything in seconds. So it was a different time, a different era. It wasn't until I went to my cousin's house and I played The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. This game clicked for me. Now, I didn't have a Super Nintendo at the time, we were too broke. He had one, and literally, I remember staying up and playing all night until the sun came up. It wasn't until way later when I finally got my hands on a Super Nintendo that I made sure that The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past was conquered and beaten. And I played that game back to back to back, me and my little brother, and sometimes my cousin. It was incredible. It was incredible. So after A Link to the Past, I remember there being this large gap, which is quite normal with the Zelda series, between Zeldas. But I remember the next one being on the Nintendo 64. And I remember actually being kind of obsessed with that system. Even though I was a Sega fanboy, I really admired the Nintendo 64. The controller looked like the head of a trident. Yes, it was an awkward controller. However, I saw it as very innovative, because at this time, we didn't have like standard controllers. Like I feel like innovation in the gaming space, it's kind of solidified in a sense. Like gaming is a lot more mature now. We have things like the Steam Deck and the Switch too. Like that's a far cry from the original Game Boy, a far cry. So back then the Nintendo 64 had The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I was fortunate enough to borrow that from one of my friends. And again, this time I had the same feeling I had with A Link to the Past, but this time it was in 3D. One thing that I can remember is the sensation of procuring certain items in the game. One of my favorite Zelda games was actually The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. And I was talking to my brother about this the other day. The feeling you got when you opened chests varied depending on what was in the chest, right? Nintendo has a weird habit of putting what you need, like rupees and arrows, in chests. And you used to have to use the compass and the map to figure out how to get to the designated chest, which was most likely blocked off by some kind of puzzle or some kind of navigational puzzle just to get to the chest. Like I remember being so pissed off when I would spend hours trying to get every chest in a specific dungeon, being stuck for hours only to open the chest and get another bomb. Like that's disheartening, Nintendo. And I kind of get that feeling in Tears of the Kingdom as well. So back then in the dungeons, you would typically find a master key, and that master key led to a chest. And even the music back then was very different from how you open chests in Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. So back then, I probably can't find the sound clip. I'm sorry for that terrible performance, but those of you who played the games, you know exactly what I mean. Whether it was a hook shot or the ball and chain from Twilight Princess, it just felt very special. And I feel like that's what's lost in Tears of the Kingdom. I'm not taking anything away from the game because I feel like it makes up for it in other ways. But I still constantly reminisce about the items of yesterday. And these items that you would obtain would also be needed to get other treasures and other items and other secret locations in various parts of the way smaller world map back then. So I honestly feel like that aspect of Zelda has been lost. And I think Nintendo should combine both sensibilities in their next game. At least I hope so. Now, the way I look at video games, I look at them as being a collective art form of a group of people we refer to as developers. So, like art, I would never just bash a game because I know what goes into it. I know the man hours. I've been around 4 minutes. I've waited eons from Kingdom Hearts 2 to Kingdom Hearts 3 just to play a sequel. I believe that was 13 years. Man, whew. I believe all the fans actually do feel it, especially the longtime fans. The younger generation loves Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. I'm not sure what age group. I'm not trying to be a generationist, which a lot of people say, oh, Gen Z, millennial, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about that. I care about the person. But the younger generation might be ignorant to how it used to be. And I believe over time, some of the developers must have retired or moved on. And now we have a younger development team working on the game. Nothing wrong with that. you have to hand down the craft. So the positive of the open world map, as in Tears of the Kingdom, is the fact that it leans more into that freedom aspect of the game. So I'm realizing that, yes, I don't have the dungeons with the items, but I am quite fond of figuring out creative ways to venture over terrain. And these experimental aspects of the game really feel incredible when you pull it off. I've made some contraptions that I thought would never work, and lo and behold, they accomplished what I needed them to accomplish, and that honestly feels as good as getting a unique item. So it's hard, right? Like, both systems I think are great. Remember the dash boots from A Link to the Past? There are these boots that you can take, and Link will do a little charge up thing, and then he'll just run forward. That cut down on traversal time significantly back in those 16-bit days. Now, in Breath of the Wild, they gave us horses. I felt like the horses in Breath of the Wild 2 were fantastic. Fantastic polygonal beings that seem to have a mind of their own. I remember distinctly during one of the E3 presentations, Nintendo literally showed a horse, and they showed a horse going around a tree, and back then that was innovation. So that horse compared to the boots is significantly different. And I'm trying to figure out if there's a way Nintendo can have both, you know? Because in this game, I indeed developed a hatred for horses. I feel like the horses, they're just not necessary anymore. And to be completely honest, even in Breath of the Wild, they weren't significant to me because I used to just fast travel. I feel like the fast travel in the open world games are incredible. And especially in Tears of the Kingdom, because you're dealing with essentially a layered cake for a world map. And for those of you who play the game, you know exactly what I mean. Even if you're in combat, you can just warp out of whatever situation and go somewhere else. You couldn't do that back in the days. In The Wind Waker, you can have Toon Link conduct the waves to teleport him to various spots on the map. Sometimes I test the limits of where I can go in this game. And that is a very good sign because that means I am literally being driven to explore. So in the open world games, I feel like the topography of the land is more believable as a world because of how grand and mass it is. It kind of reminds me of the world we currently live in. It's a very big planet. But at the same time, I wonder if intent is lost. I feel like the older Zeldas, they had intent behind their design. Okay, one of my favorite Zelda games is a game that I feel like a lot of people forgot about. It is in fact the sister game to A Link to the Past, A Link Between Worlds. In A Link Between Worlds, everything is bird's eye view, isometric. Now, I remember feeling so good walking around that world because it felt like it was literally crafted for me to explore and me to like wonder. And it's a different wonder from Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. It's a very different wonder. In Tears of the Kingdom, I'm like looking at something, I see something way off in the distance, floating, flying, or swimming around, and I want to see what's over there. It's kind of similar to Elden Ring. But here, I know I won't die 10 million times, maybe 500. But still, the sense of exploration is indeed strong in the current games. And now I must admit, in the older games, it did feel a bit restrictive. But back then, we didn't have as many open world games as we do today. So one might pick up the current Zelda games and become bored and not know that you should be exploring. It's in the sport of exploration and get put off by the game. And I can't blame them. Not everything is for everyone. We're not supposed to like every game. We don't have to like every 9 and 10. That's just their opinion. Your opinion matters. Put it in the comment section. Don't argue about it, just state it. Be respectful. At almost 90 hours in Tears of the Kingdom, I have no idea how close I am to finishing the game. I feel like I am nowhere near exhausted with playing it, and that's concerning because typically in most games, at the 90-hour mark, I start to get a little bit of visual fatigue. That's a condition you'll hear me say a lot on this channel. So for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, visual fatigue, when you're playing a game and you play so much of the game that you have memorized the visual language of said game. Not only have you memorized that language to the point where you have dreams about it, you also get a bit leery, a bit tired of seeing it. If I look at the same visual thing for too long, I want to leave said world. I want to break that immersion as quickly as possible. I'm not getting that here, and I think that also has to do with the long gap that I took between each game. Perfect example. In a few weeks, Monster Hunter Stories is coming out. And Monster Hunter Stories is also cel-shaded like Tears of the Kingdom. So that similarity in the visual style is, I know, is going to fatigue me. So that's why I'm gonna put Monster Hunter on the back burner. Now there's another game, Crimson Desert. Crimson Desert is coming out the end of the month. I may or might not get that game, I'm not sure. Let me know if you would like me to cover that game in the comment section. I might even do another poll. But Crimson Desert, even though it looks very familiar to Tears of the Kingdom and the open world Zelda games, because they actually have Ultra Hand, I mean, okay, it's okay. Admittedly, I wish it was something else, you know. But to me, Crimson Desert looks interesting. But as for Tears of the Kingdom, I am still being impressed by this game, and I'm still learning a lot of new things, and that's a very good sign. The last game that did this for me, I believe, was probably Elden Ring. Elden Ring has this weird cryptic way of presenting its items, its gear, and things like that, and it feels like another adventure. And I know you have stat points and it's more of an RPG than Zelda is, but still, that sense of adventuring, that sense of wanting to explore is heavy in that game as well. So I think I'm in the middle of this game. I feel like I still have a lot left. At least I kind of hope so. So I have a feeling this game is going to be in my rotation for a while, and I'm actually quite happy with that. I'm having a blast. I'm having a blast. So unfortunately, I feel like I still don't have an answer to my question. So I'm going to need your help with that in the comment section, because I feel like Map and Compass is special, man. It's special. You guys can always go back and play the old games, right? I feel like this only adds to my intrigue when it comes to the Legend of Zelda series. So for those of you who have already forgot who I am, my name is Jabulani Ori. If you would like to view my work, I highly recommend you head over to my website, jahbu.com. That is where I have all my artwork if you're interested in taking a look at that. On my website, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can sign up for a newsletter and you can get notifications on when I drop new paintings and artwork. If you're interested in following more of the artistic side, you can head over to my Instagram account and follow me there. It is simply JAHBU_ART. Jabu_art. Until next time, my wonderful, beautiful people, one love, peace. I got the soundtrack playing. My daughter hated when I did that in the last video. She thinks it's embarrassing. You gotta have fun.